Good evening, I'm Farhana Sheikh. Here are our top stories for tonight. Trump vows to permanently pause migration from third world countries, and Trump plans action soon against Venezuelan drug traffickers on land. All that and more coming up on AWANI International. US President Donald Trump says his administration will work to permanently pause migration from all third world countries. Following an attack near the White House, he attributed to Biden era immigration vetting failures. He did not identify any countries, but said the move would allow the US system to fully recover from immigration policies that had eroded the living conditions of many Americans.
Trump also said on Truth Social that he will end all federal benefits and subsidies to non citizens. He added that he will also denaturalize migrants who undermine domestic tranquility and deport any foreign national who is a public charge, security risk, or non compatible with Western civilization. Trump's comments came following the death of a National Guard member on Thursday after being shot near the White House in an ambush that investigators say was carried out by an Afghan national.
The United States says it will start targeting what it calls Venezuelan drug trafficking by land. President Donald Trump made the announcement as tensions with Caracas continue to rise. Venezuela has accused Washington of using these operations as a cover to try to remove President Nicolas Maduro from power.
The statement comes after weeks of U.S. military deployments, including an aircraft carrier group, stealth fighters, and about 15,000 troops to the region. Trump had accused President Nicolas Maduro and top officials of running a major drug operation, a claim Maduro has denied. Earlier this week, the Trump administration designated the Cartel de los Soles, allegedly led by Maduro, as a foreign terrorist organization. U.S. forces have already carried out more than 20 strikes on alleged drug trafficking vessels in the Caribbean and the Pacific since September, killing at least 83 people. Legal experts and several Latin American governments have described the campaign as extrajudicial killings. Caracas accused Washington of using drug trafficking as a pretext for military action aimed at toppling Maduro.
That's our top news. Stay with us for more right after this break.
Kerajaan Negeri Selangor akan melancarkan program pemberian vaksin influenza secara percuma di 4 daerah yang mencatatkan kadar jangkitan tertinggi. Pemilik atau pemandu kenderaan asing khususnya dari Singapura yang gagal memiliki atau mengaktifkan permit kemasukan kenderaan VEP tidak dibenar keluar Malaysia selagi tidak membayar saman. Kekerapan gangguan perkhidmatan aerotrain di lapangan terbang antarabangsa Kuala Lumpur KLIA tidak boleh diterima.
Welcome back. China has lodged formal complaints with Malaysia and Cambodia over their new trade agreements with the United States, saying the deals raise serious concerns for Beijing. According to a Bloomberg report, the Chinese Commerce Ministry told Malaysian officials to consider its long-term interests before moving forward.
The report added that officials from Malaysia's Investment, Trade and Industry Ministry explained and clarified the issues of China's concerns, without elaborating on what those are. A similar message was delivered to Cambodian officials last week. Both agreements, signed during President Donald Trump's visit to Malaysia last month, invite closer alignment with Washington on national security. This includes cooperation on export controls, investment screening, and sanctions policy. Beijing has repeatedly warned countries against signing deals with Washington that undermine its interests, but this appears to be its first direct public complaint. The situation underscores the delicate balance countries must strike in the rivalry between Beijing and Washington. China remains a crucial economic partner, yet the pressure of U.S. tariffs under the Trump administration has prompted several governments to offer wider concessions to Washington.
Russian President Vladimir Putin says the outlined peace proposals discussed by the United States and Ukraine could serve as a basis for future agreements to end the war. He, however, reiterates his core demands, saying Russia will cease hostilities only if Ukrainian troops withdraw from territory claimed by Moscow.
Putin has long insisted on legal recognition of the Ukrainian regions seized by Russia. They include Crimea, annexed in 2014, and much of the Donbas, which Moscow now controls. For Kyiv, which refuses to surrender the parts of Donbas it still holds, any deal that rewards Russian aggression remains unacceptable. The US plan has faced criticism from both Kyiv and Moscow, who say it leans toward Russia and fails to address the occupied territories, the central sticking point in the talks. Putin said that the US is taking into account Russia's view and has shown Moscow a new draft, though details still need to be negotiated. He also added that Russia is prepared to offer Europe a formal pledge not to attack if such guarantees are requested. Meanwhile, Ukrainian and US delegations are set to meet this week to refine a framework discussed earlier in Geneva on peace terms and security guarantees for Kyiv.
Belgium warns that the European Union's plan to use frozen Russian state assets for Ukraine could undermine future peace negotiations. In a letter to European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, Prime Minister Bart de Wever says the proposal could make it harder to reach any eventual peace deal, urging the bloc not to move ahead too quickly.
The European Commission had proposed to tap into about 140 billion euros in frozen Russian sovereign assets. Belgium withheld support for the plan at last month's EU summit. That is significant because much of the frozen money sits in Belgian-based clearinghouses. De Wever also said Belgium has not seen any draft legal text, even as the Commission prepares to present a formal proposal this week to fund Ukraine through 2026 and 2027. Ukraine, which depends heavily on external financing nearly 4 years into the war with Russia, is pressuring the EU to unlock the assets.
Russian President Vladimir Putin will make a visit to India from December 4th to 5th at the invitation of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, marking his first visit there in 4 years. India says the meeting will offer both countries a chance to review their strategic partnership and set new directions for future cooperation.
India's foreign ministry said the visit will allow both leaders to review progress in their special and privileged strategic partnership, which spans defense, energy, trade, and space collaboration. The two sides are expected to discuss regional and global developments, including the war in Ukraine, security in the Indo-Pacific, and New Delhi's efforts to maintain strong ties with both Moscow and the West. The meeting was scheduled just months after Washington doubled tariffs on Indian goods to 50%, punishing New Delhi for continuing to buy discounted Russian oil.
Israeli security forces shot dead 2 unarmed Palestinian men during a raid in Jenin in the West Bank on Thursday. Footage broadcast by Palestinian TV shows appears to show the men unarmed and attempting to surrender.
In the video, the men lifted their shirts to show they were not carrying weapons and lied on the ground. Israeli forces are then seen ordering them back inside before firing at close range. The Palestinian Health Ministry identified the men as 26-year-old Montasir Abdullah and 37-year-old Yusuf Asasa. Israel's military and police have launched an investigation but have not explained the circumstances or addressed claims the men had already complied with orders. Jenin's governor Kamal Abu al-Rub described the incident as the deliberate killing of unarmed men and questioned the credibility of any Israeli inquiry. Hamas, meanwhile, has condemned the killings as an execution and called for international intervention.
Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei says the Trump administration is unworthy of contact or cooperation. He also dismisses any rumors that Iran had sent messages to Washington.
The remarks came in a televised speech during a state-designated day celebrating the Basij Forces, a paramilitary unit under the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Khamenei said the United States and Israel had failed to secure any strategic gains during the 12-day war in June. The confrontation began when Israel launched an unprecedented bombing campaign against Iran and later expanded to include brief U.S. strikes on Iranian nuclear sites, followed by Iranian missile and drone attacks. He praised the strong public unity that emerged during the fighting, noting that even long-standing critics of the government rallied behind the country once the war began. Khamenei reiterated his belief that Israel's attacks were designed to weaken Iran, fuel internal unrest, and undermine the political system.
Former Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte will remain detained at the International Criminal Court (ICC) prison in The Hague after the appeals chamber rejected his bid for interim release. The chamber dismissed the defense claims that the 80-year-old should be freed due to his age and alleged declining health, placing him in custody while awaiting trial on charges of crimes against humanity. Duterte's legal team was appealing an October ruling that kept him in custody after judges said he was likely to evade trial and could intimidate witnesses if freed. Prosecutors at the ICC alleged Duterte was involved in dozens of killings linked to his so-called war on drugs, both as mayor and later as president from 2016 to 2022. Estimates of the death toll during his presidency vary, but police said more than 6,000 people were killed, while human rights groups put the number as high as 30,000. Duterte has been detained in The Hague for more than 8 months after the Philippines government arrested and surrendered him to the ICC in March. This week on Wu Says, we take a closer look at the recently concluded G20 summit in Johannesburg, South Africa. We speak to Professor Emeritus Dr. Wu Wing Tai on America's absence and the future of the institution as the United States assumes the presidency next year. Here's a segment from the conversation.
The rest of the world continues to move on. For example, as you know, it is official U.S. government policy that the word climate change must not appear in any communiques of a conference that the U.S. is a participant in. And if you look at COP30, and if you look at the G20 declarations, environmental concerns were a very important part of the statement. Mm-hmm. So it is that Donald Trump is acting up for his base, but the more important thing is what will happen next year, because the U.S. assumes the presidency of the G20.
Yeah.
Now, this is an occasion where Donald Trump could dominate the airspace, the airwaves of the world. His face will be seen everywhere with the other leaders. And I think this is something that he might find it very hard to let go of this publicity opportunity that will next year. But of course, it depends very much on what else unfold between now and fall of next year.
Catch the full conversation on AWANI International and across our social media platforms.
That concludes AWANI International for tonight. Stay with us as we track the strategies and power shifts shaping the new global order. For more updates, visit international.astroawani.com and follow us on social media. I'm Farhana Sheikh. Thank you for watching and good night.
Apa jua yang berlaku di sekeliling kita, pastinya ada punca dan kesan masing-masing. Faktor harga ekonomi, pengaruh politik dalam atau luar negara memberikan impak kepada kehidupan harian kita. Di Niaga Awani kami memberikan gambaran jelas melalui analisis mendalam, merentas pelbagai segmen dan latar belakang. Kami akan bantu anda untuk faham segalanya. Bisnes, ekonomi, pasaran, Niaga Awani 9 pagi Isnin hingga Jumaat hanya di Astro Awani.
Di dalam setiap berita yang dibawa, konteks amat penting. Kami sentiasa membawakan yang tergempar dan terkini. Pastikan Astro Awani menjadi pilihan anda, tidak kira di mana sahaja anda berada.
Hello and good evening. I'm Melissa Idris. Welcome to Consider This. This is the show where we want you to consider and then reconsider what you know of the news of the day. The Sabah elections will be held on November 29th, with nominations on November 15th and early voting November 25th. Now, with a